As the United Federation of Planets grew and expanded, they made great strides towards exploring the Alpha and Beta Quadrants, eventually making an alliance with the mighty Klingon Empire to become one of the dominant powers in the region. When a wormhole to the Gamma Quadrant was discovered late into the 24th century, the Federation learned even more about the galaxy, though it also led to a devastating war with a local superpower known as the Dominion. And while this made the Gamma Quadrant the primary focus of the Federation throughout these years, there was another important mission of exploration taking place at the same time, led primarily by a single ship on the far side of the galaxy. Having been transported to the Delta Quadrant by a powerful alien called the Caretaker, Captain Janeway and the starship Voyager were left to make the long journey back to Earth, roughly 70,000 light-years away. Yet Janeway and the crew did not despair, instead taking advantage of this rare opportunity to explore this mysterious quadrant, learning as much as possible in the hopes of making a meaningful contribution to the Federation upon their return. By taking advantage of wormholes and new technologies, Voyager was able to make it back home in only 7 years, but in that time they were able to learn much about the quadrant, making friends as well as enemies nearly everywhere they went, having a significant impact on many of the species they encountered. Their journey began when the Federation starship Voyager and the Maquis ship Valjean were pulled into the Delta Quadrant by the Caretaker, a member of the highly advanced Nacine species, who long ago poisoned the planet of the more primitive Ocampa, and so moved them underground, where they provided everything necessary for survival. After the Nacine left this region of space, 2 caretakers were left to watch over the Ocampa, but they were parted when the female resettled a group in another part of the quadrant. The male stayed behind to watch over the homeworld, but eventually learned he was dying and so started gathering beings from across the galaxy to find a genetically compatible partner so that their offspring could take over his responsibilities with the Ocampa when he was gone. Unfortunately, he died soon after meeting the Voyager crew, leaving Captain Janeway to destroy the array that brought them into the Delta Quadrant, rather than using it to return home, as this would have allowed the technology to fall into the hands of the Kazon, former slaves who rebelled against their trade masters, by developing a ruthless warrior culture that now dominated the region. Eventually, Voyager encountered the female Caretaker as well, but the encounter proved hostile, as she wanted vengeance for the death of her mate, believing the crew was responsible. Looking at a 70-year journey back to the Federation, the Maquis joined the Voyager crew alongside 2 Delta Quadrant natives in the Talaxian Neelix and the Ocampa Kess. Talaxians once had a thriving, spacefaring civilization based on the world Talax, but were now reduced to a scattered and oppressed people after losing a war with the Hakonian Order. Neelix and Kess were quickly welcomed by the crew, most of whom were scared to be so far from home, but understood the need to destroy the Caretaker's array. Yet some few believed it folly, with Seska, a Cardassian spy, and the Maquis Michael Jonas defecting to the Kazon, who were desperate to attack Voyager and steal their technology, which was far more advanced than what they possessed. Though Voyager attempted meeting with the various Kazon clans to make peace, their violent, male-dominated society meant they did not respect Captain Janeway or Federation values, making negotiation near impossible. Yet thanks to the heroics of the crew, Voyager survived the Kazon and eventually left their space, meeting many more fascinating species throughout their journey, such as the Vidian Sodality, a people who once had a great and prosperous civilization, until a terrible disease called the phage ravaged their society, attacking their body tissue and cellular structure. Under threat of extinction, the Vidians poured all their efforts into developing highly advanced medical technology and harvesting organs from other species to replace those being destroyed by the phage. Though Voyager fought back against Vidian attacks, several of the crew were taken captive and some were harvested for their organs. Fortunately, by 2375, the phage was cured by a think tank who traveled throughout the Delta Quadrant, solving problems in exchange for unique treasures. Controlling a large region near Kazon space, the mysterious species, known by some as the Swarm, were infamous for their reclusive and hostile nature, with most ships who encountered them never heard from again. Their nickname came from the swarm of small ships they sent to attack vessels in their space, with the Voyager crew barely able to escape. When the crew came to the aid of the Nezu, they learned of the Itanian Order, a people who conquered other worlds by manufacturing natural disasters, which cleared out the native population, allowing them to settle the planet once uninhabited. While traveling through a part of space controlled by the Bomar sovereignty, an isolationist power, Voyager was given a strict flight plan which they violated, resulting in their expulsion from the region, told to stay at least 5 light-years away from the border. There were also the Krenim Imperium, a great power in the region who developed time travel technology, which led one of their ships to create a number of alternate realities, where they eventually fought a war against the Voyager crew, leading Captain Janeway to sacrifice herself and her ship to destroy the source of the temporal disturbance, thereby restoring the original timeline. During this same period, Voyager met the Zal Union, a friendly species who defeated the Krenim in a war, and so were wiped from existence during one of the alternate timelines created, as were the Alsurians, who once controlled a vast empire near the Krenim border. The Hirogen proved to be another threat against Voyager, as they were a large and powerful hunter society who viewed other species as prey. A migratory people, they roamed a vast portion of the Delta Quadrant, hunting whoever they wanted and taking trophies they displayed proudly. During one of their hostile encounters with Voyager, they were given holographic technology in the hopes of stopping them from hunting living beings. But the Hirogen wanted the most challenging prey possible, and so programmed their victims to be supremely intelligent, creating a sentient race of holograms who rebelled against them. The Malon Cooperative were technologically advanced, but lacked the ability to recycle antimatter, creating a profitable industry which transported hazardous waste and dumped it into open space far from their home planet. The Devore Imperium were an authoritarian government who sent telepaths to detention centers and inspected all ships traveling in their space. Since Voyager had to pass through their borders, they developed a way to conceal the telepaths on board, as well as a number of Brinari refugees, a species persecuted by the Devore for their mental abilities. Finding the last of the Vaudouar species asleep in stasis pods, the Voyager crew helped revive their people, learning that they were a great power centuries earlier, who used subspace corridors to expand and conquer their enemies. When those enemies, led by the Terai, then rebelled and destroyed their civilization, the remaining Vaudouar went into stasis, hoping to one day restore their society. But the Vaudouar learned nothing from their ancient defeat, and once again resorted to aggressive conquest, trying and failing to seize the Voyager ship and take it for their own. After a hostile encounter with the Overlookers and their government, the Hierarchy, Voyager learned their species possessed advanced surveillance technology, which they used to spy on passing ships in order to assess whether they should be raided. In addition to some of the more influential species of the Delta Quadrant, Voyager encountered a great number of lesser powers, like the Benia, an amiable and technologically advanced species with a unique approach to crime and punishment, implanting memory engrams into the guilty, which forced them to repeatedly relive the victim's last moments alive. The Benia were at war with the Numiri, a secretive and hostile species who evolved on the same homeworld. There were also the Teresians, a people whose population was 90% female, leading them to release a retrovirus upon males of other species, which altered their DNA. Those males were then wed to 3 Teresian females, and killed after mating, in order to extract genetic material for reproduction. The Monian maritime sovereignty lived in the waters of an ocean world, but the planet was under threat from local industry, as their oxygen refineries were causing the artificial core to lose containment. Norcadians invented Sunkatsi, a martial arts competition viewed by many species across the Delta Quadrant, while Oksani, Chesu, Imhotep, and Torellians were at war for years until 2377, when they made peace and held the Antarian Transstellar Rally with racers from every species. Though the event was bombed by rogue Torellians, Voyager helped preserve the peace. And the Denali, who hired Jai administrators to oversee the distribution of resources on their planet, with the government ordering them to prioritize healthcare so that the rich and elite were given the best treatment, while many of the poor were left to suffer and die. A special thanks to all those who contribute to CivilizationEx, like Ishmam Ahmed of Shamidiana, the Winter Sorceress, Madam Faith of House Scarisbrick, Sir Dayron of House Ashford, and Christ Walder the Crimson Shadow. If you'd like to help CivilizationEx, click on the Patreon link, and please be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to see more.